We're just going to come into it laughing because they didn't see the off camera. What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. Me and Tyler P just having a little conversation pre-show here.
Yep.
About today's subject, which is...
potpourri!
Going back to a little bit of the winter times where we have a full-on subject. We're not going to do as long, but we're talking about used cars. Just happens to be the thing happening in our lives for Tyler P and myself. Me, I get it almost every day, but Tyler P has a little bit of a story. And I got some fun things to add to it.
Still sore.
Yeah. Kind of picking up on what we talked about a little bit in the last one, if you watched the last show, about Tyler's recent purchase. We'll get into that in a second. We might have talked about used cars before. I know Olin talked about them in a couple other shows, but...
I don't think we've talked about it in depth.
We're just going to chat about it randomly today. It seems to be kind of our style this afternoon.
Used cars and being catfished.
Yes. Dun, dun.
Yeah.
Roll intro. I'll see if I can do that anyway. But I don't really have too many event updates. We got basically just Barbecue Blast is our next big one on the 23rd and 4th. So far, so good. We're going to start tearing into the track this weekend on Saturday, so we'll have Friday night racing. Track's going to be rough Friday night. That's what it is. We're not going to put in a bunch of time fixing it just to tear it down the next day. Just doesn't make sense.
Real talk.
So it's going to be rough.
I mean, why would you?
It's going to be rough, it is what it is, but we're going to race Friday. Saturday, Justin's going to get in the loader and tear her down. So, yeah.
Full-on scorched earth.
Yeah, it's going to scrape it down. We got some layouts. We're going to try to do some designs, all kinds of fun stuff. It'll be a completely fresh layout for the barbecue.
And they're going to do the same on turf?
Yeah, new layout for turf, too. I don't know if we have the design drawn for that. Usually Mr. Marcy is the head of that one, and coupled with Bob Smith, and usually has some design input on that. Hopefully he's coming out. I'm not sure, though.
That'd be cool. Haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the updates for upcoming stuff. This past crawler event went well. Those guys did awesome. That was Scott and Mike that ran it. That was pretty good, pretty smooth. We'll probably do another one. I'm talking to them with doing something over the barbecue, but I'm not 100% yet. But worst case, come down, do some crawling, hang out, and get some food. There's usually enough food. Yeah.
I think those crawler guys are onto something.
Meaning?
Shade.
Yes, it is. It is in the trees. There is no driver stand for crawling, so that's kind of fun. You get to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
But to each his own. Everybody can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Might as well get into crawling, Tyler. I haven't tried that one yet.
I need to drive fast stuff as long as I can.
We'll save crawling for retirement. It's like playing golf when you're
when I start getting this, then I hope I can keep driving buggy until I lack mobility to get on the driver's stand.
Well, we got a lift.
Oh yeah. So I have no excuse.
We can put you in a chair.
As long as Beef and I aren't in the same heat, we're good.
What?
Speaking of which, I've been putting together the Kyosho Optimum Mid re-release for Mr. Mark. Should have, so if you're seeing this before Friday, drop the motor off so I can put it in the car, dude. But once that car is done, I'm going to try to shoot a quick overview video at home and give to you so you can post it. Super cool car. That's been fun to put together. If you can get your hands on a retro Optima Mid,
we have some.
Do it. They're super cool cars.
We still got some. But yeah, check them out. I think Chris put them online too. So rcmadnesstrackandhobby, you should have them. Check out
they're going to go.
Newwave.com. That's live too, guys. You can order some motors on there. They're proving to be quite decent.
I know. I got to get my hands on one.
But anyway, today's subject is a little bit in the used category. We've noticed a little more used traffic in the shop lately, and Tyler P had a little story, so I'll let Tyler P go first, because, yeah, why not?
So in Latin, I believe the phrase is caveat emptor, which is buyer beware. I think that's what it means.
I just realized we're both drinking the same thing.
Yeah, we are. Great minds.
We're not sponsored by Polar Seltzer.
Although.
Not yet.
But, yeah, so I think I mentioned it last week. I was looking for something different to possibly do this winter on the carpet track, and I haven't run four-wheel drive 13.5 concertedly for a couple of seasons, so I was like, I'll pick up a car. Found a guy online that had some B74.1s posted, reached out to him. He was very legit, very, A lot of good vibes. Looked at all the pictures. Everything seemed great. Car had a ton of hop-ups in it. Cool. Car shows up. It looked like the whole car had been dipped in motor oil. I've literally in my life never seen a car that had so much.
But why? Was it just like sprayed with like WD or something?
I don't know. Like, I don't know how you get oil on the knuckles of the front suspension.
Like shock oil or like...
Probably. But the shocks were full. The shocks were also coated. Maybe he drives in a salty region and he was trying to prevent rust. I don't know.
Car?
No, it was a carpet car. I know that because it was covered in fuzz.
Doesn't make any sense.
So anyway, and then on top of it, like, it had aftermarket center spines that would allow you to add weight.
Okay.
So it was like an aluminum spine that the weights could go on, and then it had a carbon fiber top piece that would hold everything down. One of the carbon fiber top pieces was like shattered. The motor plate, you could see where they blew a bearing, and the slipper plate basically just hogged it out. So the anodize is gone. I can fix that with a Sharpie. I have no pride. It's fine. Like, one of the shocks was gouged. It was advertised as having ceramic bearings, but yet there were a bunch of the associated blue bearings in the car, which is sort of a tell. The drivetrain was relatively free. I haven't gotten into the diffs yet. I'm hoping that they're okay. He said they had plastic gears in the diffs, which would be nice. The metal gears came... Like, there were a bunch of spare parts, so I could at least see what was not in the car.
Gotcha.
The killer is the bottom of the chassis looks like new.
Maybe they changed the chassis?
No, because you could see evidence of, like, it had been used on the top side, like...
Maybe not as used as much as the rest of the car?
I don't know.
Bent at one point, possibly?
I am baffled by what I face.
Basically,
yeah.
The pictures that were taken were what you think was when it was built, and then...
100%.
They sent you the car, it was much more mileage than anticipated.
Yeah, it was not Granny's Sunday driver to go to church. In the pictures, it had the stock shocks. When it showed up, it had Kashimas, which initially I was like, cool, but one of the shocks, like I said, was gouged. So it came with an ESC and a motor that I wanted. It was still a good price. I probably still would have pulled the trigger if I knew. But I guess as a precautionary tale for you guys out there, when you open up the box, if you buy something used, and I'm going to encourage people by the end of this not to buy something used via mail. When you open the box, I never open a package without having my camera rolling. Because if you need to dispute that they sent you something wrong, or they didn't send you something at all, if there's a brick in the box and that's it, you have video footage showing when you broke the seal. So that's Tyler's OCD pro tip. Suspicious of everybody, number one.
Suspicious box opening.
Roll camera when you open up the car. The other thing is immediately compare it to the pictures and make sure that stuff jives or does not jive. And then I don't think that he was trying to be shady with this, but he initially was like, yeah, so if you can friends and family me the payment, I'll send the car out.
No go. Don't do that.
For those of you who are not hip to the whole PayPal deal, you can send it.
They're friends or family if you're going to do it.
Exactly. You can send payment as goods and services, which means you are paying for something. Or you can send it friends and family, which is basically a gift. If you send something friends and family, you have exactly zero recourse if they pork you. So unless you know the person, you trust the person, or they're going to send you the thing first, friends and family is a bad idea. The reason why you're going to see more people trying to push for that is because the tax laws have changed. Mm-hmm. And now if you make more than $600 for goods and services on PayPal, basically from here on out, they have to provide you a tax form showing income. And then the burden of proof is on you to show that it was actually, stuff that you had already paid for, you're taking a loss on it. You have to deal with basically arguing that it is not a side hustle because they're trying to clamp down on that, which stinks for private party people.
Yep.
And $600 is not even, that's like one RC car.
Yeah, anytime something has to be mailed, don't just do the goods and services. And there's the friends and family, there's no fee either.
That's correct.
So if you're doing an in-person transaction, like here's the car, send me PayPal, and then here you get the car, that's fine. If it's physically in your hand, I don't think there's a problem there. If you're both agreed, it's basically like using cash at that point, I think. But if it has to travel through the mail and you're not meeting face-to-face, just pay the fee in goods and services, because you might get porked out of the whole car. Like if a brickhead showed up at Tyler's house,
if I had friends and family to, I would have been stuck.
He would have owned a $400 brick, basically, what it comes down to.
Yep.
So you got to watch your back when you're doing that kind of stuff. I mean, we deal with it all the time running business. People, try to scam this and that out of you all the time. And that even when we're shipping stuff, we go through PayPal. It has to be verified account. It has to, the billing and the shipping have to match and all that stuff. That's
another thing, is make sure if you're selling something, it's going to the exact address for the PayPal account.
Because they can, and another thing is too, if it's expensive, I would slap the extra fee for a signature on it, because we've had in the past have a problem where we ship it and they never got it.
Did they though?
The tracking says it's arrived.
Yeah.
But we still can't prove that they got it, and they can't prove that they don't have it, or I don't know how that works.
So
it's more like
it ends up in their favor, unfortunately.
The PayPal usually favors the person buying, the recipient.
Yeah. The buyer, not the seller.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. So
100%.
I mean, even for selling things, beware of that too. Not even just buying things. It's really on both ends. There needs to be a level of honesty, which honestly a lot of time is not there.
Yeah,
people are always trying to screw each other. Really,
it's weird because like old man in the rocking chair. I'll do it again. 10, 15, 20 years ago, when everything was done on the forums, you had a trader reputation. So every time you sold something successfully or bought something successfully, you would get feedback, and good buyers and sellers had high scores, and like kind of like on eBay, but you weren't dealing with the fees. You weren't dealing with all of the stuff associated with the official buying and selling.
You still see that a lot on Facebook, and people still buy things off forums, and a lot of that stuff is still you can still goods and services at PayPal, but a lot of that's just good faith too. Just straight up reputation,
right? Which is you
see it all the time on like the racers page for the local people watching. This guy scammed me, and we just blast his name out there, and he gets blacklisted from.
Oh yeah, yep.
I mean, that's your real name. Well,
in theory,
most of the time it's your real name. I guess, so
yeah, it's not a handle.
But yes, you can still make fake accounts on there. So
yeah. But so that's just a general kind of, this is more like a PSA for the audience, but be really careful. The other thing that, because I'm so picky, and I think anybody that likes to build a fresh car and know that it's good, you almost have to assume if you're buying something used that it's wrong. I've seen a lot of stuff over the years where people put shocks together wrong, they put diffs together wrong. Oh, this screw is stripped because they put too long of a screw in it and they didn't.
Oh, we see it all the time.
I can't imagine the amount of mangled stuff that you guys end up fixing that didn't run and get broken. It was just put together wrong.
Oh yeah, so all the time, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking anybody for trying to build something.
Well, that's part of the process of learning. So that's fine.
But we get a lot of cars that I have sold them a V6. They built it, bring it back to me. I look it over, and I'm like, well. You didn't put the O-rings and the shock collars. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Just straight up putting the wrong fluid or not bleeding the shocks. They're super stiff. I see a lot of times the wrong shock shafts in the wrong shocks, like a front shaft in the front and the back.
Yep.
Because they didn't realize they were different lengths.
Yep.
A lot of times the differential is just not put together right, and it's like completely like locked up.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I get it. Like, I don't knock anybody for trying to. I'll help them fix it. But you got to realize at the same time,
those are the people building and selling cars.
That car doesn't always come back to somebody that knows what they're looking at. Sometimes they just build that car and they just sell it. They're not even running the car. They just built it and sell it. It was their first car they ever built. Now they're selling it as it's brand new, never run, and they're getting top dollar for it. And then you get it and everything's built backwards.
Which is why, when I buy a used car, the first thing I do is I yard sale it. I scatter the whole car on the workbench.
Yeah, you have.
Because I have no faith in 98% of humanity. Like, there's 3 people here that if they built the car, I'd be like, it's mint.
Yeah, you got to know.
You got to have faith in who it is. And if you don't know the person, then these cars aren't cheap. You should go through the car, make sure the diffs. So the 4-wheel buggy, right? If the diffs aren't shimmed right, they're either going to be too tight or too loose. Either that's going to hurt the diff, you're going to strip gears, or it's going to hurt the motor, it's going to overheat. Either way, that's bad.
Yeah.
So you need to know, and that's like basically in the basement of the car, you know. So you've got to take it down.
And that's just race cars we're talking about.
Right.
So I was going to talk about a little bit on the other half.
Yeah, so I'm curious what you see.
So I don't see so much of the I bought this online sale. I mean, I do, kind of, you know, your experience, whatever. But I see a lot of in-person transactions. So my problem is I see a lot of nitro cars that people buy used.
Really?
I do.
That's like the worst thing you could buy used.
Well, the thing is, I want to get a nitro car. They're loud. I like the sound. Cool. I get it. It's cool. But at the same time, they'll say, they'll bring in, it's a first generation T-Max. And I'm talking, this thing's 20 years old.
Yeah, because they really are at this point, huh?
They started to make them in 94 or 95. So,
wow.
Realistically, it's a 20-year-old T-Max. He brings it to me and sets it down. Oh, I just bought this for $200. I'm like, well, all right, I guess. Well, do you have the controller? No, I didn't get one. I'm like, well, we're off to a terrible start. I was like, okay, well, did you get the starter equipment, the battery, the easy start, or any of? No, I don't have any of that stuff. I was like, okay, well, did he start it for you before you bought it? No, he didn't start it, but he said it runs. I was like, oh.
Yeah, never.
You're done.
Again, like not to be a downer, but never underestimate people's willingness to stretch the truth.
The thing is, I'm like, if you're going to buy a real car on Facebook, are you just gonna assume that it runs and just trailer it home? No, you're gonna start it up and you're
probably gonna drive it.
You're gonna see if it runs, this or that. And you're gonna be like, oh no, it runs. Don't worry. Oh, okay, I'll take it. You would never do that unless you know it's this thing's blown up and I'm going to work on it. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
I'm talking about somebody that's just buying their first car, or nitro car, or this car. Because you bought this T-Max for $200. Not only is it 15, 20 years old, which in itself is whatever, it's fine. But now you have to buy a radio for it, a starter, a battery. You're going to spend another $200 in parts. Plus, if you don't even know how to work on it, now they're leaving it with us. You're spending another $100 to get it running. So now you've invested $300 into this $200 T-Max. So let's say you got $500 into this T-Max that's still 15 years old, and God knows how many miles are on that little 2.5 or Pro 15 that's in it. That's if the engine runs at this point.
If it's not locked.
So you take all that into consideration. You could have just bought a brand new T-Max 3.3 for $500.
That's how much they are?
Yes. So
it's a pretty good deal.
Not to knock anybody for finding those things, and it's one thing to go, like, if you, me, or whatever, we went looking for a T-Max, and I'm like, all right, I want that T-Max, but I know how to do everything on that truck.
That's the difference.
There's a difference because I know what I'm looking at, which is obviously takes time to acquire knowledge like that, but if you just buying used cars, just one, do some research, just a little bit on the internet, tell you what these things are worth, because I see a lot of times like the Red Cat buggy cars and stuff like that, even the electric and the nitro ones.
Yeah,
these things are $300 tops and brand new for like a really good one, and they're buying them used for $150-$200, and they need things to complete them.
And it's a Red Cat.
And I'm like, you can literally just buy this whole new car for $50 more.
Right. So it's if you're going into it like eyes wide open and you know the car has been road-killed, that's fine. If you either want the project or you know you're going to go into it anyway.
Yeah, it's fine.
But if you're not 100%, if all you know is I want this car, and you don't have the full picture of what it's missing, whether it runs, I think that's where some people have a bad experience with the hobby.
I always tell people all the time, if you're going to go buy something used and you know what you're looking at, just show me a picture of it, and I can probably give you a pretty good idea whether it's a good idea or not.
Right.
To be honest with you. And I just hate seeing people buy this car and have to put a bunch of money in it. It's just so discouraging up front, because even if you do get the car running, you still have an old car. Like, even if they buy these cars that, I mean, they get discontinued all the time. So they'll buy these cars that get discontinued, and even if I get it running, and it works perfectly.
What happens when you break that one part?
I was like, you take it, you hit a big rock, and it breaks an arm off it, and you're searching eBay for the next 3 months trying to find an arm for your Nitro MGT. And it's like...
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I still see those come in here. In fact, Justin had one on his bench today doing a similar process to what we're talking about. And I'm like, even if we spend $200 and get this thing...
Yeah.
It's still going to be hard to find parts for. So you got to... Yep. It's one thing to collect them and know what you're looking for. It's another thing just to buy something because you think it's going to sound cool. I really just feel bad when this happens.
Well, and that's... so I actually... My brother... His first and last and only experience with like hobby grade RCs, this is going back probably 10 years now. When I was getting into it coming up here, he wanted to get something, just to bash around. And he ended up buying off eBay. And eBay is like, all of these warnings are 100% apply to eBay. Because someone will say, nothing wrong with the car. It was a Stampede and a Rustler. One was brushed, one was brushless. And the brushless Rustler, which was the one he was excited about, had... I want to say the motor had been severely overheated because it had no magnet. It cogged really bad. It didn't want to start. And
something you can't tell from pictures.
100%. And the person selling it, when we messaged them after the fact, they're like, sorry, it was fine when I shipped it, which sure it was. So that can even, like you mentioned, Nitro. Nitro is like especially complicated and kind of difficult for someone to just pick up cold. But that can happen with electric too.
Oh,
you would never know unless you fire it up and you run it, possibly for multiple battery packs, whether there's an issue. Like I had the sensor issue in my 17.5 buggy out run on the turf. It didn't appear until 3 runs in a couple days ago.
It's just like buying anything, really. I mean, you got to assume, like when buying anything used, like we were talking about our trucks earlier. We got a full size diesel trucks here. I mean, when we buy them, like we're buying a 20-year-old truck.
Yep.
We're assuming that there is something wrong with the truck when we buy it.
Not if, but when it bites you.
There's gonna be something wrong with it, and so we buy it for $5,000, and we're like, well, if this goes wrong, it's going to cost us. We're going to $5,000. We're going to have a $10,000 truck.
Right.
So, gotta consider, give yourself a little bit cushion and not pay top dollar for this stuff. That's why the research comes in. How much is a new one? $500. How much are they selling this one for? $200. Okay, that's not a bad deal. Everything seems to be working. Oh, the motor goes bad. Oh, you got to spend $100 on a motor. Now it's a $300 used car. You just got to be careful. You got to be smart about these things, and it really comes down to researching these things.
Yeah.
Really. And finding a good hobby shop or somebody to talk to about it. And like I said, I'm always happy to tell somebody what's a good or bad deal on if it's a used car. I get asked all the time. They show me on Facebook, hey, is this a good deal? I was like, yeah, it's not bad. Or no, I would not even get close to that.
Right. Which is, again, the good thing about a place like this. I think most hobby shops, if you walked in and you asked those kinds of questions, they would put their hands up in the air and be like, I'm not really comfortable giving you an answer, because they don't want to own the problem. Because you guys offer service and because
I'll tell you
want to help people out.
I'll tell you up front what I think could be wrong with it, straight up. I was like,
right.
The only reason I say T-Max is because they're all over the place. I get 1 or 2 T-Maxes a week. Easy. They're just everywhere. I mean, they've been making them since '95.
Yeah.
They're getting to be on 30 years old, which is insane. So they've been mass-producing T-Maxes for the last 30 years. So they're just everywhere.
They're like Fox Body Mustangs and third-gen Camaros used to be. Yeah. They're everywhere.
They're just everywhere. And they're still making them, so it's not...
Well, and so that's actually another point that I hadn't thought about. Depending on the kind of vehicle you buy, keep in mind what its intended use is.
Oh, yeah.
There's a ton of 8 and 6S basher cars out there right now, because they've gotten big in the last few years, right? That are going to be eventually for sale. And those cars, I'd say most people, 80% of the people buying them, are buying them to thrash them.
They are literally categorized as bashing cars.
Yes.
We beat the crap out of them.
Right. So if that's what you're looking to buy... Don't expect you're going to get, don't expect you're going to get a cream puff, and make sure that the price you pay, it matches basically the
Well, that's what I
life
was
that
saying.
car has probably lived.
That's why I say you gotta take into consideration what could go wrong in the short term with
Right.
a type of vehicle like that.
Yep.
Because it could literally happen the next day, and then you could be easily over the cost of buying a new one.
Right.
And then it's like, I don't know. I guess we could go on for a while about the used game.
Yeah,
It's basically just more of a
cautionary tale.
cautionary tale. Yeah, that's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah, if you have questions, if you don't know what you're getting into, or you know, come down, talk to the guys, or even if you see people that are familiar, that are down here a lot, don't be afraid to walk up to them and ask questions, because opinions are free.
I just noticed on a regular basis, I got to tell people it's not worth fixing. And
Right.
I'm sorry that you bought it for whatever, but it's literally going to cost you more than it'll ever be worth again to get it running again.
Right. And you know that's the truth.
And that's even like doing the labor part for free. That's like doing it yourself. I'm not even like
oh yeah,
I'm
right.
not even like on top of that it's going to cost you $100 for me to do it or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm like, by the time you buy the controller, the battery, the servo's broken, and
You're upside down.
This wheel's ripped. Like, it's just,
yeah.
I'm just selling you the parts. It's not even anybody doing it. That's
Right.
you doing it. And it happens all the time.
Yep.
And I don't know. I want to see less of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I hate seeing people, because I mean, generally the people buying that stuff they're relatively new, obviously, because they're making these mistakes, which makes sense. But it just hurts because they're relatively new and they're getting discouraged right off the bat because oh my god, this hobby's expensive, and
right.
I'm like, well,
it's the wrong introduction to the hobby.
It is, but you're really taking the long route here.
Yeah, it's instead of I want to go buy a hot rod, it's I'm going to go buy a stock car, but this stock car has had a million laps put on it.
Right.
It's like that's not the right way to get into a vehicle.
Yeah, and unfortunately, experience is the only way you can. Yeah, it's really a bad vicious circle. Experience is the only way you can really foresee certain things coming without jumping into it. And
yeah. Or you can watch an informative
growing pains.
Semi-weekly podcast and learn from our mistakes.
Semi-important, semi-weekly.
Semi-important, quasi-important.
But anyway, guys, we just had a little beef about the used market lately, so we figured we'd share. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Next week is the barbecue, so I think we might make one, but we might be a little busy depending on what we have to get ready for there. I'm not really sure. Usually from Thursday to Sunday is
chaos.
Yeah, right out, because we start getting ready for that Thursday, and we're going to be rebuilding the track this week. Looks like we have a bit of weather during the week, so we might get pushed around trying to get the track done. So I don't know where I'm going to be at this week. But we'll definitely do a recap after the barbecue with some footage on that, for sure.
Nice.
The week after. Definitely. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back soon. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe.
Later.